Okay, I want to do an experiment here with the art history brush. We've looked at the history brush quite a bit, but the art history brush is something really completely different. They're both over here, and if you see the art history brush is under the history brush. Okay, and so they're both available to you. I usually use a bigger brush for the history brush, and then I use a smaller brush for the art history brush. By the way, if you notice, they both have the same shortcut. If you press Shift Y, you can toggle between the two. Shift Y, I know that's an odd, shortcut, but I've gotten where I kind of remember it. Okay, I want to also point this out to you. If you look in your layers, I've just got the background layer there to start with, and instead of using a Command J for this, I'm just going to create a new blank layer. There you go. Zoomed in a little too close, but I just put a blank layer. And the funny thing is, and it's like the history brush before, you have to keep it in the same position that you start. Otherwise, it won't have anything to history back to. If you look in your history panel, you can see this little clicked on icon there. That is the source of where the history is going to go back to. So when you undo the things you do, it's going to fall back to that. Even on this transparent layer. I know that sounds a little weird, but let me show you what I mean here. If you go to the art history brush, I usually stick with a small brush here just because it acts too fast and I'm using a mouse today, but it's great with a stylus. There's a lot of options up here for darken and lighten and hue, saturation, color. I usually start with normal. You can change the opacity, which we've done before. You can change the length of the stroke, and you'll see what I mean by stroke. They've got a medium, they've got a long, and they've got these things called curls and dabs and other things. The area of 50 pixels, I've messed with that quite a bit. I don't see a big difference. Tolerance is kind of seems backwards. If you leave it on 0, it does more, and as you push it up, it does less. So let's just see what it does here. You can see that I'm on the tight short style, and it's just kind of messing with the image. It's like a mixer. We saw a mixer brush last time, but this is more like in little strokes. If I go to a medium, you can see that it looks different. And if I go to a long, it's just longer. That's a curl. Loose curl. They're all slightly different. Tight curl, making little circles. Tight curl, long, tight curl, regular. You might hardly see any difference there. The area might determine some of that, but again, I don't see a big difference. Dab's kind of a cool one in that it just kind of does that. It just kind of dabs a little bit at a time. But you can see you can obliterate the image. But then if you type your Shift Y, and I again have a big brush here for that, soft edge, it'll just bring it back to what it was before. Now it doesn't, I'm going to undo that. It doesn't have to be that big. Remember, you can use smaller. You can bring in very specific kinds of parts of the picture. Okay, you might try this with something that has a little bit more of a defined edge, maybe the cardinal picture or something like that. Okay, but here's the thing that I find unusual. That transparent layer that we started with is now filled with that image from below. The art history brush not only mixes the colors and does all that twirling stuff, but it puts those pixels onto a new layer. So you really don't need to have a double copy of this, but here's maybe the disadvantage. Tell you what, let me just start over here. I'll trash this layer, and I'll bring in a new transparent layer. You see it over here. Okay, and I'll do just a little bit of the art history. Let me switch to art history. They look alike, so you have to be careful They do look quite a bit alike. The art history has this little curlicue on it, and the regular history just has a like a return, recycle kind of a look to it. Okay, so let me zoom back out, and I'll switch tools, and I'll do just a little bit with the art history brush. Okay, so I'm doing just a little dabbing here. Okay, the problem here is that when I go to split off the image using my crop tool, if you only do a little bit of it like I just did there, what you end up with is this for your second layer, and that's really not enough. I mean, it's not enough of a comparison. Okay, so I'm going to undo that, and I'm just going to kind of go over the whole area, the whole image with the art history brush here. Maybe do something that'll cover it a little quicker. I don't know, loose curl. Okay, I'm kind of doing this. And I know that looks like a mess, but once you go back in with your history brush, Command Y, you can return parts of it. And then, I haven't even mentioned this, Shift Y will go back to the art history brush. These other things are kind of cool too, like hue will bring in slight changes of color, which are very kind of crazy. And color does a similar kind of thing. Remember, you can change this too. Saturation, not much there. Maybe a bigger brush would be better for that. There you go. Now you can see it. Changing the saturation. There's something out here that I must have missed. Okay, and let's see, darken. Okay, and I can see lighten. You can see all the stuff that it does. Then go back to the history brush, and it just returns it back to the regular settings. I did notice, and you might want to watch out for this, be careful if you change the mode on the history brush. If you change from normal, be prepared for it to not return all the way back to the original image, so you do have to keep that in mind. Let me just check my time here real quick. I've somehow set my deal up where I can only go 15 minutes. Okay, so I'm still good. Okay, you'll want to do something maybe a little more artistic with this and try to bring an image in. Okay, now that I've kind of covered the whole thing, you see what I mean? I've covered the whole thing. If you look over here at my layer now, I'll turn off the background layer. Turning off the background layer, and you can see I've got the whole image on the top layer now. Okay, so there's the background, and then here's the foreground, the top layer. Okay, now if I go to my crop and add my space, commit, and drag this over, I truly have I have a comparison now. Instead of just a few gobs of color in an L shape, as you can see, now I've got a real comparison one to the other. So I'd rather you do that. Okay, I'm going to keep it short here. Change the names of your layers, add your captions, and be sure to save in the right location in your folder, all that stuff. And that's a little better demonstration of the art history brush.